Reddit Ask Me Anything. I'm Michael Franceze, a former maid boss in the Colombo crime family starting in the early 80s. Ask me anything. I'll begin answering questions at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm Michael Franceze. I'm here to answer your questions. I am the son of one of the most feared mafia bosses to ever walk the streets of NY. He was an enforcer known to be cold-blooded and extremely deadly. I followed in my dad's footsteps and took on the mob life. As a maid member, I made money for the mob. Tons of money. I know the mob life as well or better than most. I am also a person of strong faith. I'm ready to answer all your questions. Ask me anything you like. No bounds, no limits. I have been asked everything under the sun. If I choose not to answer, I know how to take the fifth. I've done that many times in my former mob life. But I assure you I won't this time. So join me today and fire away. Any stories of interaction with other organized crime families, such as Russian mob, Yakuza, outlaw bike clubs, Mexican prison gangs, etc. A million. Spent 20 years in the life. Organized the Russian mob from Brighton Beach in the gas business. Best partners I ever had. I taught them how to defraud the government out of hundreds of millions of dollars of tax money back then. They now are deep into Medicare fraud, setting up fraudulent medical clinics all over the country. Would take hours to tell you all the stories. Take care. We have ours. Any fears about your safety today? I can't go back to Brooklyn to live, or in NY in general, wouldn't last. But I don't live in fear. I am a person of strong faith now. God has had my back. Remember, I am the only made man, a Kaporajime, that I know of who has walked away from the life, publicly, not entered a witness protection program and lived. It's a God thing, my friend, not coincidence. If you listen closely, you can hear the sound of thousands of Redditors' brains imploding. What was it like walking away from the Mafia? Was it accepted or were you threatened or hounded in any way? Also, what were the actual logistics of your gas tax scam? How were either the IAs or any federal agency not able to successfully audit you? I struggled mightily for years after walking away. My father disowned me. The family put a hit on me. The feds tried to make me a witness. Lots of pressure. Very tough. And very tough for me personally. Even though I didn't hurt anyone, I felt like I betrayed my oath and it really troubled me. Only God and time were able to fix that. Gas tax scheme was complicated, but we were way ahead of the authorities. They could not figure out what we were doing. If my partner didn't turn snitch, they would never figured out the scam. Does the Mafia still have a big presence in the US? Are they just better at hiding it now? Yes. Not nearly as big as when I was active in the 70s, early 90s, but still exists. Don't count it out. Very resourceful. Has it evolved to be more of a contact network now, or is it still ruled by fear? It's ruled by likes on social networks. Edit. Oh, Marone. Somebody got me Reddit gold. Many thanks. 1 like equals 1 respect. 1 share equals 1 offer that cannot be refused. Ignore equals death. How would crime families view the more modern organized street gangs? A means to an end as partners or just petty criminals not to be trusted? Petty criminals. No respect for human life. We chase them from our neighborhoods if they would even dare to enter. What is the scariest situation you have been in? Walked into a room one night and thought I was going to get killed. I was called in by my boss over money I generated in the gas business. That's how it goes. You walk in and never walk out when you are in real trouble. I was in the right. Proved it, and here I am. But, brother, my heart was pounding. Knees weak. Still don't know why I went. I guess just a product of my life back then. How nice is your mom's cooking? She make good spaghetti? My mom and grandmother were the best. Grandma's meatballs cannot be duplicated and mom could whip up a delicious meal in minutes. Miss them both. But my wife is a great cook. Blessed. I really wanted this post to end in forget about it. It seems that a lot of families have been destroyed by all of the bloodshed and corruption that mafia groups like the Colombo family have perpetrated over the years. Yet mobsters are generally romanticized in film and on TV. Do you agree that this is how these groups are generally portrayed? Do you think that this is harmful? What is your take on this with your new outlook on life? The Godfather did more to raise the profile of the mob than any other movie. Yes, it's harmful. The life should not be glamorized. Why? It's an evil life. Not saying the men are evil. I was one of them that happened to be blessed. The life is evil because people die. Families get destroyed because of a lifestyle I lived it. I know. What is the process of becoming a made man like? Very intense. Very solemn. Very serious. I took an oath with a picture of a sun burning in my hands. My thumb was cut with a knife and blood dropped on the floor. The oath is never to violate the Brotherhood of La Cosa Nostra. Didn't you violate the Brotherhood of La Cosa Nostra by doing this? Ask me anything. RIPU/Kosif. Any funny Mafia stories? What would be the lighter side of organized crime? A million of them. Mob guys can be hilarious. Read my book. I'll make you an offer you can't refuse. Lots of stories in that one, like in all of my books. Your naked plug is pretty hilarious in and of itself. What was the main appeal of joining the mob for you? Money? Power? Following your dad's footsteps? I joined to help my dad get out of prison. Plain and simple. The money and power came for me later on. Once I got in, I wanted both. I see this question asked all the time, but never to a legitimate former mafia boss. How accurate are most mob movies, television shows? If you could recommend one to watch for authenticity, which would it be? Most authentic, Goodfellas and Donnie Brasco. They mention my name in Goodfellas. The bar scene. I knew those guys very well. My era. Saved Henry Hill's life 2x. I knew Paul Vario and Jimmy Burke well. Also. And Left Guns Ruggiero was a good friend. Those two are the most accurate depiction of that part of the life. Getting affirmation that Goodfellas is the truest mob movie from a real life mob boss. This is now my favorite Ask Me Anything. Thank you. Stay in touch. What is the percentage of Mafia members survive until old age? The percent that survived without any work-related injuries? If you are a made man, you die of old age and die a free man, you really accomplished something. I have seen many more guys die in jail or from a bullet than I have seen survive. The percent are bad. How can I tell if the steakhouse across the street from me is a mob joint? Are there any telltale signs? It supposedly was a hot spot in the 80s and is still rumored to be. Easy. Who hangs out there? Mob guys like to eat where they are comfortable with ownership and the clientele. And of course, the food has to be good. What timing? I just watched that program about the 10 commandments of the Mafia. And now here you are. Where did you get the idea for the gas station scheme? And since it was getting so big, did you have any sort of an exit strategy in case the authorities got too close? Or would you just keep running the scam until you went down with the ship? Who was the scariest person you ever encountered and what made them particularly frightening? Gas tax scheme was 1 in a million. So much money. Better than drugs and a lot less ugly. A guy in the biz came to me when some other mob guys tried to shake him down and move in on his business. I chased the guys away and the two of us devised this scheme to defraud the government out of the tax money on every gallon of gas. At its height, we sold 500 million gallons of gas a month and kept 20-30 cents a gallon of the tax money. Do the math. Lots of money. My dad was scary. Saw him go off on people. Scare because he was no BS. He would do exactly what he said. No fear in him. How old were you when you first realized something was different about your family and what made you realize it? Very young. My dad was super high profile, like the John Gotti of his day. Law enforcement always after him and sitting outside my house. Many incidents with them. Didn't like them very much when I was a kid. Got into fights in school when kids made remarks. But I loved my dad. Made me tougher. Kids would attempt to bully you because your father's a mob boss. Brave kids. How do you feel about your past? Does it haunt you? Are you proud? Any regrets? I am not proud of my past. My wife will tell you that I do have rough nights sleeping at times. Regrets? I would have preferred not to have gone through it. But I just move on and try to use my experiences to benefit others. I'm aware that you spent approximately 3.5 years in prison. How were you treated by the other inmates that were aware of your past? I spent almost 8 years in prison. 5 years. Then 3 on a parole violation. I had a lot of publicity. I had a pedigree going in. I was treated well. With respect because I treated other inmates well. Respect is a big thing in prison. For your information, both John Gotti and Carmine Persico, my former boss, were both smacked around in prison. Guys doing life without parole don't care who you are. If you disrespect them, they have nothing to lose. Didn't hurt that Fortune magazine named me as one of the 50 most powerful mob bosses in the US. Today I learned inmates read Fortune magazine. Prison rule number 23. Don't kill anyone who gets mentioned prominently in leading periodicals. Did you, or other MAID members, get an actual salary, or did you just have access to any money you needed? If you did get salary, was it based on what you brought in, and how much was your salary? Do you have a relationship with your father? How thin can you cut your garlic? No salary you earn for yourself unless you were the boss. Most Goozy were not good earners. Trust me, yes. He's 96 years old and still in prison. Very thin. We mob guys are experts at cutting garlic. We all know movies like The Godfather and shows like Boardwalk Empire are a romanticized version of the golden age of the Mafia. The Sopranos, on the other hand, has been praised as being a very authentic mob show. My question: how accurately did The Sopranos portray the inner workings of the mob? The best thing about The Sopranos was how he interacted with his family. Mob guys also had family issues. The business stuff was not realistic. Made them look incompetent. Some guys were, but others were pretty darn smart. What is the worst thing you have done seen when in the mob? Thanks for doing this. Awesome. Unfortunately, violence is a part of the life. If you are a MAID guy, you're going to see it. No escape. I have seen my share. It's ugly. If you had it all to do over again, would you make the same choices? Was the lifestyle worth all the trouble you went through? Life on the street and in the mob is a dead end. Prison or death is the way it will end today. I would not go into that life, knowing what I know now. I try my best to drum this into the head of our young people. Gangbangers, not worth it for me or for anyone in the life. Trust me. This is a great question. We always hear how the mobs have money flowing in. But is it worth it having to hide and always in danger? Not worth it. The pressure is always there from the law and your own guys. Trust me, not worth it. How does the mob or other organized crime compare today with your day? Is it worse? Better? More or less brutal? My day was pretty much towards the end of the golden age of the mob that began in the late 40s. Different today. I wouldn't want to be a part of it. We had some integrity about us. Respect and honor did mean something with the old timers. Today, the Russians have gotten pretty violent at times. But it's all not what it was. Hi Michael, what is your relationship with your father like these days? I know inside the American mob you spoke about it, but is there anything else you would like to add? Also, what was your single best day, money-wise, whilst in the Mafia? And finally, will we ever see the sort of organized crime capabilities that Cosa Nostra had ever again? Thank you. I still love my dad. He's in prison until 2017 when he will be 100. God willing. I feel a bit guilty I haven't visited him as often as I should. Just so burnt out on prison. All my life. Since mom died last year, things have changed a bit between us. One day, I made over $3 million. It was a rush. No, the mob in my opinion will never see its glory days again. At least not in my lifetime. What is the most unrealistic part about the Mafia as portrayed in television and movies? Really depends on the movie you're talking about. Goodfellas, Donnie Brasco, realistic. The Sopranos, if a mob boss was ever visiting a psychiatrist he would be in the trunk of a car by the end of the week, along with the psychiatrist. But the family interaction was fairly legit. How often have you encountered corrupt cops, government officials? Has any nationally known incident ever been influenced by this? Quite often. They are people too. Everyone is capable of being corrupted, regardless of your career. But I have met many real good honest ones also. Thank you for doing this Ask Me Anything. As a former member of the Colombo family, I'd like to know what you think is the future of the family, as they are the smallest in New York and constantly being hammered by the government. Do you see any family mergers, for example? Also, did you know Greg the Grim Reaper Scarpa? Seemed like an interesting character with his civil rights work and sociopathic behavior. Families will not merger. If the government keeps pressure on all the families, they will continue to weaken them. Columbos and Bolinas are the smallest in numbers, but all the families have been hit hard. Thanks for doing this, AMA. I have one question based on a factoid I recall reading about a while ago. Did the movie The Godfather made an impact on how you and your fellow mafiosi perceived yourselves? Absolutely. It elevated the status of the mafia to the general public and even to one another.